So Chris, what is Qigong?
Qigong is an ancient method that's been used for thousands of years to help people bring energy into their body, to develop warmth in the lower abdomen, keep the head cool, so to balance the energies in the body, to increase them, and to use them to restore balance.
Now, in describing this, you use Chinese medicine terminology. If we're talking with someone who doesn't have any background in Chinese medicine, how would you describe what Qigong can do for him or her?
Well, that's a good question. Normally, I really avoid using the technical Chinese terminology, especially with people who are new to it, because I want to explain it to them in terms that are readily understandable. So, for example, we can think about circulation, not only of the blood, but also of the lymph system. With our blood circulation, we have the heart pumping the blood. With the lymph system, there's no central pump. The lymph moves through our body through movement. So that's one example in the way that Qigong is effective, is because you're moving your body, and when you do this movement, you're also moving all the circulation in your body, helping nutrients, oxygen, get to every part of the body and carry away waste products.
And usually when we speak of exercise in Western terms, we're talking about building muscles or strengthening something. Is there any equivalent description that you would use for what Qigong does for people? Well,
Qigong is definitely strengthening. It increases endurance, but not in the sense that you're lifting weights. You're working with your own body. And also it's very good for improving and enhancing balance. So what you're doing is you're moving through a set of movements that are designed to bring your body into alignment and to bring it into full functioning as much as possible. And so when you're doing a pose that involves shifting your weight, or perhaps standing on one foot, you might think that, well, this isn't really a hardcore exercise, but you'd be surprised at how much strength you're building, especially when it comes to balance. I can speak from my own experience. I started doing Qigong 3 years ago. I was pretty sedentary. I could hardly stand on one foot for more than a second, and I've seen an incredible improvement in my balance and overall endurance.
Well, that makes me want to ask, there are lots of yoga studios and not many Qigong practitioners readily available to the average person when he or she looks. How come you have chosen Qigong in particular? What makes it so appealing to Chris Brennan? How'd you get into this?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I had been rather sedentary. I was 61 years old. I looked at myself and I thought, Chris, you've got to start moving again. I had done a lot of yoga before, but I felt like I had gotten to a point where I was so deconditioned. For example, I tried going to a yoga class and it was just a little bit too much for me. And so I had heard about Qigong and I decided to check that out, and it turned out to be what I was looking for. So it was a method of moving. And also, it's combined with breathing and visualizations, so it works with all parts of the being. And when you begin practicing it, the movements are very gentle, they're very gradual. You can make your practice as rigorous or as gentle as you want. And so I felt that it was a good place for me to start to improve my health again. And I turned out to be right, it was right for me. And that's one reason I continued doing it and also learned how to become a teacher.
And if I'm not feeling that I'm deconditioned, I suspect that there's still something that Qigong could offer me, isn't there?
Oh, yes. I found for myself, after I had completed the basic program, it's the sort of thing that you can go as far with it as you want. And one of the overall goals of Qigong is restoration back to a baseline of health and functionality, but also longevity. And this is something, I'm not talking about longevity in terms of living to be 100 years old necessarily, but to be fully alive for every day that you are alive. And I think that's a worthwhile goal.
As do we all, I'm sure. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.